And we welcome to the show Jack from Flagstaff, Arizona. Jack, you've got a question about podcasting.
Yeah, so basically I'm trying to start a podcast, but I don't know how to get started. About hardware, software, as well as just like cloud and promotion stuff.
Jack, I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna kick it off to my esteemed friend because he's got way more years in broadcasting than I. I will say, on the hardware side, wait. Because one of the temptations is to buy as much hardware as you can, to go out there and spend money before you actually have the idea for your show together. That is the most important part, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, because we used to get this like, I want to start a podcast, but I don't have $7,000 for microphones and super incredible pre-audio amplifiers and a digital recording system. And stop, right now. Look at, pull Jack back up here.
There we go.
Boom. You got a webcam. You got a headset. You got to start right there. That's all the equipment you need, because everybody thinks it's the equipment, and the reality is like doing a weekly or a daily or a monthly podcast and making it interesting and bringing you into that podcast. That is absolutely the hardest part. Is like releasing it every week is hard. Releasing it every day is even harder. So figuring out like what I want to talk about. I want to talk about tech. Do I want to talk about mobile tech, this tech, that tech, certain tech, unboxing tech? There's so many different routes. Figure out like what you want to do. Figure out a deadline. And then figure out how to actually produce it in a timely fashion. That's like 80% of the battle right there. And once you get to the point where you're doing this for 6 months and you're like, that was great, I hated that, then stop. And if you do it for 6 months and you're like, I have 1 million followers on YouTube and this is epic, then you can start thinking about like, but my camera sucks, I need a better camera. Because in a few weeks or a few months of podcasting, you're gonna be like, oh, well, I need something I can do to use close-ups of equipment, or actually, I need a better camera for me, but it would be nice to have a lava mic so that I didn't have the big headset on my head. But I would say start with the equipment you have, start making it, start meeting a regular deadline, and then figure out what you actually need to make the kind of podcast you want to make. Does that make sense, Jack?
Okay.
Now, we get this question all the time, and one of the things we have to impress upon people is it's not starting a podcast. It's easy to start a podcast.
Right.
It's difficult to continue a podcast.
Yeah.
Because once you start to lose interest, and you will, I mean, no matter how passionate you are about it, at some point, your schedule's going to bog you down. You're going to get tired. You're going to need to recharge. You still need to push it through. And you know this. If you step away from your audience for a month,
I starve, and my children starve.
Your audience is gone. But taking what Patrick has said and continuing with it, he's talking about engagement. The moment you get engagement, you get people who actually like the content. They like your videos. They're coming back, and they start saying things like, hey man, it'd be awesome if we could hear you better. Or, could you do something about your lighting? That's when you can actually start to think about getting some decent equipment. And I'm going to be against the grain here, because there's a lot of people who say, oh, you need to buy this 4K studio camera and $10,000 worth of lights. No, everything starts, even if it's a video podcast, everything starts with audio. If you don't have good audio, it's unbearable.
Right.
Yeah.
And people notice it much more than you'd actually think.
Yeah, because our minds, we can fix bad video. If the frame rate's not right, if the video stutters a little bit, that's fine as long as we can hear it. Now at TWiT, this is our gold standard. We've got a Heil PR40. We love this mic. It's a front-firing mic. It uses an XLR connection, which is what you want, because this is sort of the gold standard for making sure that you're going to have good quality audio. Unfortunately, you can't just plug this straight into your computer and be done. You do need some sort of an adapter. I go for this. This is a Shure X2U. This is a XLR to USB converter. What this will allow you to do is to take any XLR microphone and pipe it into your computer, where you can use it with your editing suite, be it YouTube or Facebook Live. This is a little expensive, though. This is about $100. This is going to run you close to $400.
Yeah, well, the other problem is also when you have a microphone like this, you basically have to talk into the microphone here.
Yeah.
And you either carry the microphone around with you, or you never move your head away from the microphone, because if you do, all of a sudden,
there we go.
Or you get really back up like here.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
But that's one of the things. Like you may find yourself doing a podcast where it's like you talk at the screen and you don't move, and that mic would be perfect for you. But if you're the kind of guy that's, if you're moving around, if you're walking, if you're doing stuff like that, then you want something that's attached to you that will work even if you are moving or saying around. Although I will say right now, you're being really still on that frame, man. There we go.
He's got the training.
There we go.
He's ready for this. He's ready. Jack, let me ask, what are you thinking about podcasting about?
So it would be a tech show covering news about Android, iOS, Windows, Mac, and Linux. Yeah.
Do you know where you want to push it out to? Are you talking about YouTube only? Are you going to do Facebook? I mean, what's the kind of format you envision as you get more mature in podcasting?
Yeah. So I think it would be probably YouTube at first, but I'm not even quite sure about that, like where to put the podcast and how to get the bandwidth and all that.
All right, I got something then. I got a little something. I just got this. This was a while back I said I was 50-50. I was batting 500 for Kickstarters. And in the last 2 weeks, I got 4 of my Kickstarters, which brought me up to 100%, which was amazing. This is probably the one that I was waiting for the longest. This bad little mamma jamma, if I can find where all the cables are hung up, this is called the Screens. Now, quite simply, imagine the TriCaster that we have here at the TWiT studio. This is kind of like the poor man's version of it. This is a $400 device that takes in 4 HDMI inputs plus a virtual input, so 5 switchable inputs. I can tile them on the screen. I can have windows next to windows. I can do interesting transitions back and forth between the inputs, but that's not the cool part. The cool part is this will accept a USB microphone, so you can put your headset straight on it, and it also has a network port and Wi-Fi, so I can stream directly from this box to YouTube. I don't need any editing software. I don't need an encoder. I just take the 4 in, I control it with my tablet or my laptop, and the output goes directly to YouTube Live. I mean, this is probably...
You can embarrass yourself in front of everyone you know in real time.
Yes, you can. In fact, I have it set for the wrong resolution right now, but I'm not sure. Do we have this? So this is... Oh, let's wake up all the devices that are currently off here. I've kind of got it set between... Oh, they went to sleep. I have 4 devices in here. I've got my laptop. I've got this little Leva PC. I've got a testing device, and then I'm not sure exactly what was supposed to be on the 4th device. It was probably the, oh, I know what it is. It was the Raspberry Pi. And the cool thing about this is I can tile them. I can switch back and forth between them. I could have, say, one that's dedicated to the camera on my face. One is dedicated to the HDMI output from my computer. So, for example, if I wanted to do gaming videos.
Sure.
This will also stream directly to Twitch. I mean, it is this super versatile box. I am just starting to find out how to use this properly, but I'm really excited by what this can do for us.
The man is excited, Jack.
Yeah. So, Jack, what do you think? Are you ready to start small? Start just by getting that audience, and then slowly, as you find out your needs, can you add little bits and pieces of hardware?
Yeah. So I don't think I'd be doing a live show. I think I definitely need to be doing editing, at least at first. So, like, what kind of software do you guys recommend?
I use Premiere. I'm not sure what you use.
I use Premiere too.
Yeah, and you're a student, so you can get an educational discount.
Which is not a bad deal. I would basically, do you want to do it on, do you have a full computer to work with? Do you want to be able to edit it on your phone? I would basically start experimenting with stuff and find one you like that is free.
Okay.
If you're running Windows, like if you can find an old copy of Movie Maker on there. I'm sorry?
Open source or something.
Yeah, start with whatever's free and doesn't drive you nuts, and then go from there. Kind of like with the hardware.
Oh, of course.
At some point, it probably if you find yourself getting to the point where like I really like editing and editing is cool, and maybe I want to edit instead of making a podcast, or if you get to the point where you can't do the things you want to do, then start figuring out how to get an educational discount on Premiere and go with something like that, because that's kind of the standard for what everybody uses once they get up to a certain level. Until you get to there, you're basically figuring like I have to figure out how to tell a story. There is voice, there is sound from the devices I'm talking about, there are stills I want to show, and blending those together in the right time is how you sort of create the grammar or the sentences of delivering the video. Use whatever's free and you can get fast, and play around with everything until you find something you like, because I don't think there's any particularly stronger one than the other, because as soon as you start spending money, everybody's like, Premiere.
Yeah. It was Final Cut for a while, and then they did weird things.
So then, how do I? So, kind of three more questions. But how do I kind of promote the podcast?
That is
nobody knows.
When you figure that one out, you can just do a podcast on that.
See, if you had a name for your podcast and a YouTube site, you could have given us that right now.
Right now, this is how you do it.
But you know, it's something that evolves continuously, right? So, you know, okay, you create a good YouTube channel, you do interesting stuff, and you tell your friends about it, and then hopefully more people notice on YouTube. And you know, you could do Snapchat, you could do Facebook. That question you just asked, I know people that make 3 times what I make every year, that tell people how to help people find their stuff on the internet for a living, and they don't have a real answer either. So part of it's like, you know, figure out where you want to direct people. I'm going to do this on YouTube, and I'm going to do it on Facebook. Okay, so I need a YouTube name and a Facebook name, and I need to, you know, you could spend the rest of your life, or at least until Facebook goes away or gets replaced by something else, basically just reading what everybody's written about how to promote things on Facebook. But mostly it's learning, like, you know, okay, I look at Google Trends, it tells me what people search for when they're talking about this particular part of Android, so I need to use this word rather than that word. It sounds really simple, or it sounds really silly maybe, but things like, you know, I remember when I learned that everybody searches for laptop, nobody searches for notebooks. So stop putting notebook in the headline of a laptop review. And that's just, you know, search engine optimization, learning how people track things, figure out how your friends search for things, and then start, you know, you start figuring out how to throw bait out and find it. Mostly though, it comes down to doing something super awesome that gets people's attention so they tell other people about it.
And one thing I can give you is something that always works, or almost always works, is collaboration. The internet is a collaborative place. If you can work with other content producers, other geeks, other tech people, that is always a good way to sort of share your audience. It's not, I'm stealing his audience or she's stealing my audience. It's, look, we're introducing our audience to one another. That sort of creative construction is something I think really drives the internet content industry.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. We'll see. Jack, thank you very much for joining us. Now, I know you don't have a YouTube channel yet or a URL yet, but when you do get one and you do start producing, do you think maybe you could reach back out to the new screensavers? Because, you know, I want to see what you're doing.
Cool.
All right.
Again, thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Jack.
It's Jack from Flagstaff, Arizona. Thank you for reaching out.